Ok? Vamos praticar hoje com Kafka in Action. Vamos lá. Introduction to Kafka. This chapter covers why you might want to use Kafka, common myths of big data and message systems, real-world use cases to help power messages, streaming, and AOT data process. Let me see its bigger. As many developers are facing a world full of data produced from every angle, they are often present with the fact that legacy systems might not be the best option moving forward. One of the foundational pieces of new data infrastructures that has taken over the IT landscapes is Apache Kafka. Apache Kafka, Apache Kafka, and Kafka are trademarkers of the Apache Software Foundation. Kafka is changing the standard for data platforms. It is leading the way of moving for extra transform load EOT, ETL, and batch workflows, in which work was often held and produced in bulk and on predefined time. No new real-time data fields. Batch processing, which has once the standard workhorse of enterprises data processing, might not be something to turn back to after seeing the powerful feature set that Kafka provides. In fact, you might not be able to handle the growing snowball of data rolling through enterprises of all sizes unless something new is approached. With so much data, systems can be easily overloaded. Confirmar pronúncia de data.
Data.
Data. With so much data, systems can be easily overloaded. Legacy systems might be faced with nightly processing windows that run into the next day. To keep up with this ever constant stream of data of overloading and data processing this information as it happens is a way to stay up to date and current on the system state. Kafka touches many of the newest and the most practical trends in today's IT fields and makes it easier for daily works. For example, Kafka has already made its way into microservices design into Internet of Things, IoT, as a de facto technology for more and more companies. Kafka is not only for super geeks or alpha chasers. Let's start to looking at Kafka features, introducing Kafka yourself, and understanding more about the face of modern mainstream platforms. What is Kafka? The Apache Kafka site defines Kafka as a distributed streaming platform. It has three main capabilities: reading and writing records like a message queue, storing records with default tolerance, processing strings as they occur. Deixa eu highlight aqui. Readers who are not as familiar with queues or message brokers in day-to-day work might need help when discussing the general purpose and flow of such a system. As a generalization of a core piece of Kafka can be thought of as providing the IT equivalent of a receiving that sits in a home entertainment system. Figure 1.1 shows that data flow between receivers and users. The figure one shows digital satellite capable to Blu-ray players can connect it to a central receiver. You can think of those individual pieces regularly sending data in the format what they that they know about. That flow of data can be true of a nearly constant while a movie or CD is playing. The received news with this constant streaming of data and converts into a usable format for the external devices attached to the other's end. The receiver's end sends the video to your television and the audio to the other's decoder as well as to the speakers. So what does this have to do with Kafka exactly? Let's look at the same relationship from Kafka perspectives in figure 1.2. Kafka includes clients through interfaces with other systems. On such client type as called a producer, which sends multiple data streams of the Kafka brokers, the brokers serve a similar function as the receive in the figure 1.1. Kafka also includes consumer clients that can read data from brokers and process it. Data does not have to be limited to only a single destination. The producers and consumers are completely decoupled, allowing each client to work independently. Well, dig into the details of how this is done with later chapters. As the other message platforms, Kafka acts in reducing terms like a middleman for data coming into systems, from producers and out of systems, from consumers or end users. The loose coupling can be achieved by allowing the separation. Producers and sources of data, flow of data. DVD1 producer, DVD2 producer, DVD3 producer. Or Kafka and action cluster, TV1 consumer, TV2 consumer, stereo consumer. Between the producer and the end using the message. The producer can send whatever message is want and still have no clue about if anyone is subscribed. Further, Kafka has various ways that it can deliver messages to fit your business case. Kafka's message delivery can take at least the following three delivery methods. At least on semantics, a message is sent as needed until it is acknowledged. At most on semantics, a message is only sent once and not resent in failure. Exactly on semantics, a message is only seen once by the consumer of the message. Let's dig into what those message options means. Let's look at least on semantics figure 1.3. In this case, cat can be configured to allow a producer of messages to send the same message more than once and have it written to the brokers. If a message does not receive a guarantee that it was written to the broker, the producer can resend the message. For this case, where it can miss the message, say that something has paid an invoice. This guarantee might take the filtering on the consumer end, but it is one of the safest delivery methods. If a machine's broker producer has a failure or is not acknowledged, the producer resends the message. The broker sees two messages at least once, or only off if there is a failure. Consumers get many messages and the broker receives. Consumers might see duplicate messages. Almost all semantics, figure 1.4, is when a producer of messages might send a message and once and never retry. In the event of failure, the producer moves on and doesn't attempt to send it again. But would someone be okay with losing a message? If a popular website is tracking page web views per visitor, it might be okay with missing a few page views events of the million it processes each day, keeping the system performing and not waiting for acknowledgement by automate any costs of lost data. Kafka added the extra one semantics also news of EUS to its feature set in version 0.11.0.EOS, generating a lot of mixed discussion with the release. On the one hand, exactly one semantic is figured 1.5 ideal deal for a lot of causes. Things seems like a logical guarantee of removing duplicate messages, making them a thing of the past. But most developers appreciate sending of message and receiving that same message of the consuming side as well. Even if a message from a producer has failure or is not acknowledged, the producer does resend the message. The broker sees unmessaged at most or zero if there is a failure. Consumers see if the message that broker receives. If there is a failure, the consumer never sees the message. Another discussion that followed the releases of EOS was a debate on if exactly ounce was even possible, although this goes in deeper computer science theory. Isn't helpful to be aware to how Kafka defines their EOS feature. If a producer sends a message more than once, it will still be delivered only once the end consumers. EOS has touch points at Kafka layers, producers, topics, brokers, and consumers, and will be briefly tackled later in this book as we move along in our discussion for now. Besides various delivery options, another common message broker benefit is that if the consuming application is down due to errors or maintenance the producer does. If a message for producers fail or is not acknowledged, the producer will send the message. The broker only allows one message. Consumer only see the message once. There is a IoT more than exactly one semantic that well discussed later. No need to wait to consumers to handle the message. When consumers start to come back online and produce data, they should be able to pick up where they left off and drop and messages. Kafka usage. With many traditional companies facing the challenge of becoming more and more technical and software driven on questions and formulas, how will they be prepared for the future? One possible answer is Kafka. Kafka is noted for being a high-performance message delivery workhouse that produces replication with fault tolerance as a default. With Kafka, enormous data processing needs to handle random with Kafka production. All this with a tool that was not this one version released until 2017. However, besides this hand headline grabbing facts, why would users want to start looking at Kafka? Let's look at that answer in a minute. Kafka for developer. Aqui. Primeira parada. Essa foi a leitura do dia. Valeu, pessoal.